Investigations have been launched into the deadly school shooting in Tacloban City. Good morning, I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno, and this is At the Forefront. Details are unraveling about the deadly school shooting in Tacloban. Police say the two suspects, who are minors, may have been influenced by a violent online video game. They also found out that the shooters have been planning the attack for about a month. Before the incident in Tacloban, two stabbing incidents in schools were also reported in Cavite province. Are schools still safe for children? Do we need to revisit the law exempting minors from criminal liability? To give us his insights, we'll be speaking with Tacloban City Mayor Alfred Romualdez. Good morning, Mayor Alfred.
Good morning, Attorney.
There were initial reports that the school shooters in Tacloban were bullied in school. What are you discovering so far in the investigations?
Well, contrary to that was a statement given by the suspects, by the two minors, basically that they said that they did that because they were being bullied. However, in the investigations that are being conducted now, it's very far from that, and based also on the witnesses of their classmates. Because the victims, especially the three that who were fatally hurt, the first one was a girl, and she did not even know the shooter, never met the shooter. And the second and third, one male and another female, knew the shooter, but they were not, in fact, even capable of bullying because, you know, they were quite frail. And the man was a very kind, the young man, basically the boy was, you know, very helpful. He was a, you know,
yeah, and he died
guy.
Because he was defending his classmates.
Yes,
no?
he was actually holding the door, and so he was trying to hold the door, you know, and the shooter wanted to open the door and go in. And the shooter, that was his classroom. Okay.
And
so,
I saw the interview of the mom of that victim. Yung
Yes.
anak niya pa daw yung nabubully.
yes,
So
that's
clearly there was no bullying, or at least that's based on the victims, na hindi yun yung mga, they weren't even bullies. But what were you discovering in the past few days? Meron daw mga text messages?
Well, forensics was able to retrieve their cell phones, and in their conversation, definitely it was planned. But what's even more alarming is that they even talked about the aftermath, that they would not go to prison because they were minors. And
So nandun yan sa text exchange
Yes,
nila, that they were
nandun.
aware,
They were
hindi
aware.
sila makakasuhan because minors lang sila.
Yes. But to us, no, I'm sure even mayors in their local areas know that yan ang reklamo ng police, dahil pag may hinuhuli sila ng mga minors for, you know, so many infractions, may dala-dala na silang ID, if not even birth certificate, at pinapakita na sa police na minor kami.
Ahead of committing a crime,
Yes.
baon na nila yung proof of their age.
And in the community, this has been going on for almost 10 years. You know, teachers have been coming to me complaining, you know, because there are gang wars that are happening in different areas, you know, and laging sinasabi, itong saksakan na sinasabi nila, matagal na ho to, nangyayari to even 5-6 years ago, you know, and they join a gang, and you get a higher rank in that gang based on what you do. Pag nakasaksak ka, then you're, you know, eligible to be a leader of the gang. You see, that's
And this
how
has
they
been
do it.
going on. So
Yes.
recently, merong stabbing incident in Cavite province in schools. But apparently, you're saying this has been going on.
Yes, this has been going on, especially outside the school. You know, we have gang wars, there are gang rapes, you know, and unfortunately, statistically, if you go to the police and you check their records, that we have a higher crime rate in the high school students more than the university students.
So the minors are
The minors.
more the perpetrators of the crime based on statistics.
Because of, I think, social media, a lot of young kids did not know about the juvenile law. When they started discovering that hindi naman sila na prosecute o nakukulong, lumakas ang loob, and they vandalized so many structures na mga like the gymnasiums and all that we put up there. They vandalize it. They create problems. Ang problema kasi ho nun, marami hong OFW na they have to work abroad and then they leave their kids. And ang problema, they are not being attended to, you see. And it's very difficult because when we find out, usually they're left with the guardian. I discovered this 10 years ago nung nag-Yolanda sa amin. We lost 500 children because they were just left to their guardian. And the
wala
guardian,
yung parents to
wala yung
really
parents.
protect them
Yes.
nung nagkaroon ng
Yes. So
storm surge.
so they're not properly guided. They're not being attended to. That's one problem, that we saw. And sa DSWD, there are not also many facilities wherein we can house them. We have a women's shelter for battered women, and this. And doon na rin namin nilalagay. We also have Baya Pag-asa, wherein you have children that have some infractions sa law. But that's also not a place for kids that commit violent
if
crimes.
it's heinous crimes like
hindi
murder.
na natin malalagay yan dun no? But I see also that even syndicated crimes ginagamit na talaga mga minors.
Yeah, well, in the past, merong lumutang ulit na video si now Senator Erwin Tulfo where he said that itong Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act has been used by minors that abuse it, meaning sila yung mga nagiging drug runners at pickpockets at sila yung ginagamit din ng mga syndicates for committing crimes.
Totoo yun.
But
Totoo yun.
Going back to this case that happened in Tacloban with the school shooting, it looks like the 14-year-old just used a narrative na nabubuli daw sila, but based on the evidence, meron kayong na-uncover sa forensics na text exchange that they were premeditating this
Yes.
at least a month ahead or more. And there were also YouTube accounts that was discovered. So he
Yes.
has a YouTube account wherein
In fact, the YouTube account even demonstrates how to make a firearm, how to make a gun.
meron siyang ganung
Meron siyang ganun.
YouTube account.
Yes.
And he was wearing the same shirt that was worn by school shooters in the US.
Yes.
Kasama yung isang Columbine shooter in Colorado, school shooting then, and another
Actually,
school shooter.
all the shootings that happened internationally, he was following all of those and quite also idolized all of those and also announced in a letter that there will be one that's coming and it will be here in Tacloban. But
He
did
had
not
a letter
specify.
that said
yes,
that.
Yes, and a pronouncement.
Okay, so clearly, if this were under the revised penal code, he would be liable for murder, which would have a penalty of reclusion perpetua. But because of the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, as a 14-year-old, he's exempt from criminal liability. Ano yung reaction ng parents of the victims when they found out that
Well,
wala silang magagawa, they can't prosecute him?
I was with the parents and basically the community itself, the community they're really crying out for justice. But at the same time, they're also fearful because we have cases wherein stabbing incidents wherein the suspect, the individual who did, commit these crimes, were let loose the following day. So, they're afraid for their children that what can happen to the other kids kasi pinakawalan nga itong mga to eh. Kaya my main concern really is that how can we isolate this person? Because
Legally, yes.
Yes,
Kasi
because
hindi
he's-
nyo pwedeng i-detain. Nasaan
At-
po ngayon itong 14-year-old?
nasa police station ngayon dahil kailangan niya ng security.
So baliktad, he's being kept for his own security.
Yes, because you have towns, you have areas in cities wherein you have what we call a tough neighborhood, and San Jose is a tough neighborhood. And there are people outside gathering, in the police station, and heckling and saying, they want revenge and, they want to take the law into their hands, right? So, they need to be protected. Kaya yung tinanong ko nga sa DOH, hindi nyo pwede, I mean, for a child to do something like this, basically he's mentally not stable. Can we put him in an asylum or temporarily in a psychiatric ward, in the hospital and just, also preventing from killing himself? Because na-discovery namin, may sulat siya. It was a suicide note.
He had a suicide note
yes,
in the past.
Yes, he had the suicide note prepared. We got a copy of that. In fact, it started by saying na pag nabasa nyo to, by the time you read this, I'm probably dead. And the plan from interviewing the two, lumabas nga na may usapan sila after this shooting that killed themselves. But the older one backed out, and the younger one. I'm sorry, the
it's a 14-year-old that said,
the younger one started to, basically run away from the 15-year-old and said, I'm not killing myself.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm going to continue what we started.
Which is to kill others
Yes,
instead.
to shoot others.
So the parents of the victims are now demanding justice. How can they get this?
It's a mixed emotion. It's demanding justice at the same time. They're afraid because, this is the first time it happened in our country. And they're thinking that what about other schools? If, kids will see that they get away with murder, it might happen in other schools.
Yeah.
So itong kinakatakutan nila na ano bang mangyayari dito? Why are we so... And my point rin here is this, dapat... we have to revisit some laws, but we have to look at them carefully. Hindi naman pwede knee-jerk reaction dito sa nangyari, di ba? Like, marami akong naririnig nga na sabihin nila, bawasan yung yung age. I think, we should really be careful with that and see that kung babawasan yung edad on certain crimes, not generally,
well,
but on certain crimes.
Emptied my question. So the PNP said it supports bringing down the age of criminal liability to 12.
Yes.
Malacanang said that President Bongbong Marcos is amenable to bringing down that age of criminal liability, but they did not specify an age. What is your take on this? But before you answer this question, we'll have to take a short break. At the Forefront, we'll be right back. Welcome back at the Forefront. We continue our conversation with Tacloban City Mayor Alfred Romualdez. Mayor Alfred, the PNP said that they support bringing down the age of criminal liability to 12 years old. Malacanang said President Bongbong Marcos is amenable to also bring down the age of criminal liability.
Yes.
But they didn't specify the age. What is your take on this?
Well, first of all, knowing the president, that I also spoke to him. And he's amenable to that. But, of course, he knows that whatever's recommended should pass through a thorough study. In fact, siya na rin nagsabi na depende sa crime. Hindi lang pwede natin in general babaan yung age na yan without studies that should be made. But studies that should be made, in a given time, like maybe in 60 days, come up with a good study, get professionals in, get psychiatrists, psychologists, child psychologists, to look at the situation. And that's when you formulate now, a plan or a law that would address these issues. And I think also we have to look at DSWD, that there are also NGOs available and want to come in. Dapat humingi tayo ng tulong sa mga, there are many Christian schools and there are many Catholic schools also that are out there, that can help, because really napabayaan talaga ang mga kabataan ngayon.
Public schools don't have classes on religion. Do you think kailangan lagyan
It's
ng
I would say
Christian
now,
classes
kasi ang nangyari ngayon, unlike 20 years ago, you would see different Christian groups, they fellowship, their apostolic work. even in Catholic schools. But now they're so busy with blessing marriages, officiating marriages. Yung hindi, wala na talagang kulang. You know, participation of the religious groups is very, very important in developing their, you know, life.
Well, sa Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, for the 14-year-old, he can be subject to a rehabilitation process. In your experience, is it effective? Yung mga dumadaan ba sa Bahay Pag-asa or sa rehabilitation process, do they change to be better people?
There's a big problem there because you need professionals to do that.
Don't we have
like for example, in
professionals?
Region 8, in the, ang alam ko, even in Eastern Visayas Medical Center, there's only one. You know, you need a child psychologist, you need a psychiatrist, you know, you need people to study the behavior and, you know, even to advise what, not only medicines, but, you know, what kind of environment, how upbringing and all that. Kasi, you know, it's also difficult now, Karen, about the situation. No? Many parents complain to me. I have experienced that too. Social media now is so strong that the influence of social media toward the kids are actually stronger than the parents' influence toward their children. You know, it's very difficult now to raise kids. That's why, you know, I said earlier that dapat disiplinahin ng pamilya yung mga kabataan na yan, yung mga anak nila. Huwag na ibigay sa gobyerno para disiplinahan.
Yes, you made that statement
Yes,
that if
I made
parents
that
cannot
statement.
discipline their children, they should not leave it to the government to discipline them.
Yes.
And it's not the government's job. This received mixed reactions. Do you
Yes.
stand by that statement?
Yes, I stand by that statement because you don't want the government always coming in and doing that. That's why you'll have problems about a kid getting shot by a policeman because iisipin ng police, may baril, wala palang baril. Maraming ganun eh. Dapat, sa ganyan, that's why I called on the PTAs, I told on the various communities, you know, you have to work among yourselves and fix that. It is a growing problem. Kasi katulad yan sa probinsya o sa amin, kilala naman nila eh, sino yung mga unruly kids eh. Kilala nila. They have to be given attention. But let's go on the government side. I'm saying that also because we don't have enough facilities, neither do we have enough professionals to deal with that. This has to be done intelligently and thoroughly studied. Mahirap yan because this is the future of our country. These are kids.
And but when you talked about OFW parents not being able to watch over and rear their children, hindi mo rin masisi yung mga OFW parents because wala silang opportunities dito sa Pilipinas. So, how do we take care of the children of OFWs kung sila yung isa sa sector, yung groups na napapabayaan?
There are laws. There are laws. Other countries are already practicing and using those laws. For example, you know, even in the house, you cannot mix a 14-year-old daughter with a 16-year-old son in the same room. It's against the law in other countries.
In other countries,
yes,
they have
to be separate rooms. We had a case of an OFW who went abroad, iniwan yung anak niya na babae sa uncle. And he comes home drunk. He's been raping that child. She didn't know where to run to. She ran to us. Next thing we knew, she committed suicide. Because wala siya matakbuhan. This is really a big problem. But you know, alam mo minsan sa kultura natin, ayaw natin pag-usapan yan eh. Hindi natin magagamot yan kung hindi natin pinag-uusapan yan eh. Kailangang ilabas natin yan,
So now
pag-usapan yan.
this is a difficult conversation that we're having.
Oh, yes.
And then it was triggered by a very tragic incident in Tacloban. So based on what you said, as a mayor, what governance challenges have you experienced with this age of criminal liability? And you said, siguro we should classify based on the crime, kung ano yung age of criminal liability. But for a heinous crime like this, and based on what happened, the 14-year-old fired several rounds from his gun. So may talagang intent to kill na marami.
Actually, it was the 14-year-old who fired about 99%.
Of the
Yes.
of the shots.
Ang lumalabas sa forensics ngayon, yung 15-year-old only fired one shot and it was a warning shot. The one who did the attack was the 14-year-old. And the one who insisted on going on with the plan was the 14-year-old.
So would you say dapat ibaba ang criminal liability for murder?
For crimes like that, yes. For premeditated crimes, yes. You know, he fully knew what he was doing. Alam nyo, may effect yan eh. When you kill a person and you see the person go down, you know, that should wake you up. Eh. But to continue to shoot at random, you know, and finish all your cartridges there. I mean, he spent about 3 magazines. He fired around 40 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, that for me, I mean, that shows discernment.
Oh, yes.
Meron, alam niya na yung ginagawa niya. But for the 15-year-old, under the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, if he acted with discernment, he can be prosecuted criminally. Based on the evidence you have, their text exchanges, 1 month of planning, it looks like he acted with discernment. Will there be cases filed against the 15-year-old?
Yes. Yes. They were with the fiscal's office last night. And cases are now being prepared. And cases will be filed, definitely. But my concern, nasa gobyerno kasi tayo eh, pag-uusapan yan, yung rehabilitation, marirehab ba talaga yan? Do we have professionals to really do the job? You know, or it's just going to get worse. Now, may I go back lang with a statement I made earlier, no? I was also disappointed. I made a statement that hindi naman dapat ibigay sa gobyerno lahat ng pagdidisiplina ng bata. What I meant there, you know, medyo naging emotional ako kasi, you know, we're very strong in child trafficking. And many of the cases that we handled, more than 50% of the time, parents are involved. They're
the ones that
basically sell their children.
Yeah.
You know?
I heard the statistic from Anthony Pangilinan. He said 8 out of 10 cases daw. It's the parents that sell their own children for
because
child trafficking.
that happened to us. We rescued about 13. Out of the 13, there were about 8 that came back to me and said, Mayor, paano yung allowance na binibigay ng foreigner na to na dati namin tinatanggap? Wala na kami ngayon matatanggap. You see? So
malalim ang problema,
malalim
Mayor
talaga.
Alfred. Education Secretary Sonny Angara went to San Jose National High School yesterday and you met with him.
Yes.
What did you discuss with Secretary Angara?
Well, what we discussed there clearly was, you know, the teachers also have difficulty because, alam nyo, ngayon, mabilis ang technology. You know, I'm sorry to say this, but when I have a problem with my cell phone, I give it to my daughter and she's the one who fixes it and programs it for me.
Ako rin sa mga pamangkin ko,
diba?
ganun
So,
din.
ganun din sa eskwelahan. Ang problema naman sa eskwelahan rin, they are asked to have cell phones because they're given their assignments through cell phones. And I feel that for a minor to have cell phones and they can go to any site, it's very dangerous. You know, kami parents, most parents now, we have to work. Both have to work. So, you know, it's very difficult na bantayan yung anak mo.
So last question, because we're out of time, do you recommend na mag-restrict din ang age for social media?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because the influence of social media has gone so strong, you know, and it's also addicting. There are now rehabs now that deal with that and, you know, try to fix children that are addicted to cell phones, social medias, and all that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mayor Alfred, and good luck po in Tacloban.
Yeah, thank you. God bless.
The Tacloban school shooting has shocked the nation and forced us to ask difficult questions. How did 2 minors carry out such a deadly attack? And does our current juvenile justice system still strike the right balance between rehabilitation and accountability? As investigators search for answers, the families of the victims continue to seek justice, and communities are looking for assurance that their children are safe in the classroom. Be informed, be insightful of the news. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. Always stay at the forefront.